I do think that they think safety is paramount. But payment is just something that we stopped talking about with Chairman Dempsey.
So like I said, I want to go over really three pairs that were on the watch list this morning. We're going to look at Eurocad, GBP CAD, and GBP NZD. I want to explain to you why we didn't take a position so far this morning, what we were looking for, and where the analysis kind of lies between these three pairs. So let me throw you over to the side here. And we're going to start with Eurocad. So like I said, these were the three pairs that really made the list today. You can see these are the three Forex pairs that are flagged on the right side of the screen. I've got Bitcoin and the NASDAQ and the US 30 flagged as well, but that's not what we're going to be focusing on right now. Let's just focus on these three Forex pairs. So this morning on Eurocad, I want to break down the whole thought here. I can't really give you the idea today because it didn't progress, but I can give you the idea of why I was waiting for the potential idea to happen off the 200 EMA right here. So I was long biased on Eurocad here, like I said, at the 200 because of what we had yesterday here as it broke out off the 21 and 50 EMA. Sentiment was bullish yesterday. You can see on the TDI above the 50 value. That's what we'd like to see. EMAs are in a really nice trend, 800 on the bottom, 200 and then the 50. So you had a nice shift here that pushed for yesterday's high a day. That high a day was tested at the end of the New York session yesterday and in the Asian session. You can see that blue box is really the resistance level. So knowing that we have that top, knowing that we had the move up yesterday, and then there's one more thing that you have to see about this. I'm going to pull up another chart. I'm going to open up my 1 hour chart. And if you guys remember yesterday on the stream, I told you we were looking at Eurocad for a breakout here, and this was just at about 8 a.m. New York time. So yesterday we had that breakout that only went about 25 pips. The stop was about 20, and it moved about 25 at most. And then as you can see, it pulled itself back, and now looks like it actually, from here, wants to continue higher as well. But the point is that yesterday we had this bullish signal as well. So coming into today, you could look at this and say, yeah, I would stay bullish off the 200 EMA. The pullback could be done. This is a significant level it stopped at here in the Asian session. We could trade right off that, back up to high a day. That was the idea. But what kept me out of taking the position, let me just clean this up really quick. What kept me out is what we need to do is wait for a D1 signal. You see now I have the bias being long, right? I want to buy it. When we're looking at the 50 EMA here, to me, the one thing that would keep me from jumping into any buy signals is the fact that the 8 EMA is under the 21 EMA, which is a short-term downtrend for us. Where when we think about probabilities, the higher probability setup would be to be buying it when the 8 is above the 21 EMA and we're in a short-term upshift. So seeing that we could even find 1 minute divergence down here, if you take a look at the 1 minute, you'll see it. If I just redraw the line to where I had it, it was like this, right? So you had this 1 minute divergence. If I sync up this line, you'll see, and I zoom out a little bit on the 1 minute, you'll see price falling. The RSI is rising. That's bullish divergence, and that's synced up right here to the 15 minute. So it's off that 200 EMA. So the idea was there, but this is, again, the problem. When you're in the short-term downshift, this pump down sometimes happens. So if you end up trying to buy it in here, this push down stops you out. Now that we've shifted up here with the 8 above the 21, we could look to trade this off the 50 if it can come back down to the 50 as a retest and trade that higher as the day goes on, because now you've got this 1 minute divergence in play. If you redraw the lines, you've got divergence here. You've got a couple of smaller sets of divergence. If this market sentiment line on the 1 minute wants to stay bullish, you could ride this upshift for the rest of the day. So that's kind of what we were looking for on Eurocad. It just didn't develop the right way to give us an entry signal. Now let's transition to Gcad. Very similar. You're trading a CAD quote pair. You can see on the 1 minute, since I have it open, I'm going to show you. We have bullish divergence here at 6:45 into about 7 o'clock this morning. That's when we're at the 50 EMA right here on the 15 minute. If I sync up this line, see it right here. So we're at the 15 minute 50 EMA, but look at the 8 and 21. They were in an upshift with the 8 above the 21, but as this started to come lower through the 50 here and then with this big bar, it crossed the 8 and 21 down. So they transitioned into this downshift, and that's what killed the idea. Now here, why we were able to stay out of this and not take a loss or even take a position or anything is because the market sentiment line stayed bearish. You can see this yellow line on the TDI on the 1 minute never used this divergence for structure to come higher. What we would have wanted it to do is use this as the bottom. Oops, let me show you. You would have wanted it to hold here and make higher lows going in this direction, pulling the yellow market sentiment line up here into the buy zone. And it didn't do that. So there was no signal to take. It didn't present anything, and we've just been watching it. Now, could you be looking for buys here off the 200? Absolutely. If you look down in here, just on the 1 minute, if we were to redraw this divergence, you can see the RSI low is back here. This is the lowest point on the RSI. So that's where you'd want to start drawing that divergence. And then you'd connect that to this point right here, and it would look like that. So you could see the bottom here. Maybe it starts to come higher, but one more time, I'm going to say it. The problem here is if you're buying it here, it's in a downshift on the 15 minutes. So you have to go through the 8, through the 21, through the 50. Not a great trade, not a high probability trade that has nothing in front of it that's trading in trend. Does that make sense between Gcad and Eurocad, everybody? If it doesn't, put a comment so I can make sure we get it in this clip. Take a look here. One more thing. This is GBP NZD. We have bullish divergence finally setting in here with the RSI setting its low on the 1 minute. Price action coming lower here about an hour later, just about 2 hours later, actually. So with price falling and the RSI rising, that's a great place for us to come in and look for buys. But look at what happened just recently. The 8 crossed under the 21 on the 15 minute. So now any buys that we take, we're trading against the short-term trend. And that's not a high probability place to be. Compare all of that, one more thing here, to Bitcoin. Bitcoin was presenting this 1 minute divergence. It was in a downshift. See how the 8 was under the 21? And it still has now moved through it because the 15-minute trend has been strong enough. It's now crossed the 8 above the 21, and that trend should continue as this market sentiment line stays bullish. But that's a little summary of not just the 3 Forex pairs on the watch list, but also Bitcoin, so you guys can see how that divergence signal can present risk points, know where your stop loss is, it can present your entry signal, and it uses the 15-minute and the 1 minute. And the key takeaway I hope you get from this little clip is just that the 8 and 21 EMAs matter. I wasn't paying attention to them when I first started trading these divergence signals, and as I have been paying more attention to say, hey, let me trade in the direction of the short-term shift rather than forecasting a short-term change of trend, it's made a huge difference. Huge difference. And you hear me talk about it all the time. React, don't forecast. So instead of forecasting, if it's in a downshift and you buy it, that it would shift up, just wait for it to shift up and then go look for your risk point using that divergence from the 1 minute chart. I hope that gives everybody some clarity. Corbin donated $1.11